This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
she was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one who'll dance on the floor in the round. She said, I am the one who will dance on the floor in the round. Told me her name was Billie Jean, this car scene. Then every head turned with ice drink, be into one who will dance on the floor in the round. People always told me, be careful what you do, though.
All right, welcome back to the program. 1:08 is our time. It's raining once again on this Wednesday afternoon. And Taylor Cormier on the line right now from the Howie Carr Show, executive producer, and Frank Sinatra aficionado must be scratching his head saying, what the hell are you playing there?
I know what that is. That's Artificial Intelligence Billie Jean by dead Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, this artificial intelligence stuff is crazy, huh?
And that one's not even good. I don't
No, it
think
wasn't good.
right.
No.
But I imagine are you alluding to a new song that was released within the past couple of weeks from a still alive artist?
Have I? I'm sorry.
Have you not heard about Randy Travis's new song?
Oh, yes. I've heard about it, but I haven't heard it yet.
So, I mean, it sounds like, prime golden age Randy Travis.
Yeah.
He's still alive,
Yep.
but he suffered a stroke, I believe, back in 2012 that took away most of his speech ability. Very sad. I mean, he's led a life full of problems, and it's just an awful thing. But,
Yeah.
So
they've actually recreated him.
Song.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's an original song, and it was supervised. I mean, it was done with his supervision. He was in the studio. They sampled his voice and they isolated it from his earlier tracks back in the 80s and 90s, and they made a new song. Somebody else came in and sang the song, and then they ran it through his voice. So it's kind of his voice. I mean, it sounds just like him. It's not Randy Travis singing. It's a computer and some relatively unknown artist, but it's really incredible. And I'm very on the fence about not that there's a moral quandary there, but what is the future for any artist if that's all you have to do? You don't even have to go into the studio anymore.
Right.
Yeah, you get somebody else to do the work for you. It's a very strange time we're living in.
It is a very strange time we're living in, and you're speaking to somebody who had to call his son last night to help him turn the TV on so I could watch the Celtics game. So my extent of knowledge when it comes to technology is very, very limited. So all of this stuff is so far beyond my comprehension, and I mean, to have you explain it that way was really beneficial for me and perhaps for some other listeners there who really have no idea what the hell this stuff is. I do understand that
it's very strange to know that Randy Travis right now physically cannot sing, yet he's got a new song coming out, and it sounds exactly like he did back in 1987.
Well, didn't they just do this with a Beatles song too, fairly recently?
Yeah, they came out with a new Beatles song that I think Paul McCartney had written or something. I'm not sure what the story. I'm not a big Beatles guy.
Yeah.
But, it was also very strange. I can understand doing it with, dead people, but with somebody still alive, I think that there's some more credibility and more substance there, as long as it has their stamp of approval and they're able to give it.
Yeah.
It's still all.
But even then, I mean, this can lead to an awful lot of consumer fraud down the road when you think you're buying an album by so and so and it's really not that person. Although who buys albums these days anyway, right? I'm still thinking 8 tracks here, but had a great 8-track player until my wife made me get rid of it. But
there was no such thing as a great 8-track player. That's why they phased them out.
Yeah. Anyway, there are a lot of other important things to talk about other than AI, and but I'm sure we'll be talking more about that too as the time goes by. I'm not even quite sure where to begin. Let's start with Trump. I mean, yesterday the trial was absolutely beyond anything I could have imagined. We all knew that this was a rigged up show in New York. I don't understand a couple of things. Number one, why the judge in the trial would feel that Stormy Daniels' testimony as it was delivered yesterday was acceptable or relevant in any way to this case. And second of all, why the prosecution thought it would be useful. I understand the prosecution is trying to discredit Trump and make him look like a real schmuck to the jury, but most people in the country feel that Trump is being picked on now anyway. So I'm sure the jury must be sitting there wondering what the relevance of that testimony was to the actual charges in the case. Was Stormy Daniels helpful in any way, do you think? And do you think they should have declared a mistrial?
I think she was helpful in discrediting herself and pretty much the prosecution's entire case. I didn't think the testimony relevant to their encounter, shall we say, was very relevant. I don't think anybody's questioning whether it happened. I think it's a pretty safe assumption that it happened. It was real. They had whatever fling they did, and that was it.
But she said it didn't happen, though, Taylor. She signed 2 papers and issued 2 statements saying it didn't happen in 2018.
Right. Well, I mean, that's discredit number 1 right there. And then she, I believe in her book or something, she had written that, or at some point she had made a statement that Trump was the one that gave her money and made her sign an NDA. Yeah. And then in her testimony yesterday, she said that didn't happen. He had nothing to do with it. He did not. So I mean, who's winning here?
Well, look, you put Stormy Daniels in front of me, and you put Michael Cohen in front of me, and you put Donald Trump in front of me. Now, Stormy Daniels, kind of a reputable character, irreputable character, and you look at Cohen, who's gone to jail for lying, right? Donald Trump tells me I didn't do it. So far, Trump hasn't lied to me. So I say, well, okay. And then Stormy Daniels signs 2 statements in 2018 saying, nope, no matter how many times the press wants to say it, I never had a sexual relationship with Donald Trump. Then she can write a book. So she writes a book and says, well, yes, I did have sex. And now she's, she goes on the stand yesterday and said, yes, we did have a sexual relationship. Who are you going to believe? I mean, Trump hasn't lied to me yet. So he says he didn't do it. She said twice he didn't do it. So, I'm having trouble with the premise that we have to assume that it happened when she said it didn't happen and he said it didn't happen. You know what I mean?
I don't doubt that it happened, really. I don't. Listen, I mean, there was some money paid, and I don't think there would be money paid for a sexual encounter that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Trump had anything to do with the money being paid, or at least there's nothing on paper that says Trump had anything to do with the money being paid out or how it should be paid out. And Trump's story, as for me, remained pretty consistent. He hasn't really changed any details of his accounting, or his defense hasn't changed any details of his accounting of it. So I'm like you. I'm more apt to believe his case here. But I do believe that you don't fork over money for something that didn't happen.
Unless you're trying to, as his attorneys have stated, you're running for public office and you're trying to keep the scandals at a minimum. Here's some money, give her some money, just tell her to go away and shut up. And you're trying to protect your family. So, I mean, those things do happen too, and celebrities have been known to do that. But we're kind of wandering off the plantation here and getting away from the original point of the topic, and that was was this in any way relative to the case against Trump? Because he's not on trial for having sex with Stormy Daniels. He's on trial for paying money, and I guess maybe paying it out of the wrong account, bookkeeping her, I guess you could say, right?
Right. I mean, the whole thing is just. I think it's proven to be quite the sham. trial here. First of all, just a bookkeeping error. I think that's all it may amount to. And certainly businesses and corporations in New York have been guilty of much, much more without ever receiving any fines or punishment of any kind or even being put on trial. But I think yesterday was enough, with the star witness being Stormy Daniels herself, creating enough reasonable doubt herself to any of this that actually took place. The jury's got to be scratching their head saying, what do we make of this? I mean, this is who they're basing the entire case on, and she's, refuting her own
exactly
several times in the past. There's no way a jury that is worth their weight can say he's guilty of anything at this point.
Well, there's certainly reasonable doubt, and the jury has to, determine that he's guilty beyond reasonable doubt. So then you had the other shoe drop, and that is Judge Aileen Cannon down in Florida, postponing indefinitely the Filegate case against Trump. So some big problems there. Apparently, evidence appears to have been tampered with, and files are not in the original order that they were in when they were seized from Mar-a-Lago and various things like that. So Jack Smith's case seems to be in some trouble right now too.
Yeah, that is a big win for the moment to put this trial on hold for the foreseeable future, and really embarrassment for the DOJ, who apparently doesn't have all their ducks in a row here. There's question over, first of all, I think how these files even arrived at Mar-a-Lago to begin with. Who sent them? Was stuff mixed in with what Trump had brought back from the Oval Office? Was this a setup from the original date of his departure or even before that? And then how everything was laid out at Mar-a-Lago while they were doing this illegal raid and taking these phony pictures, trying to make it look like Trump had just all this stuff strewn about. It was completely unorganized, and this was obviously a gross mishandling of sensitive materials. And they try to bring all this into a courtroom, and it's again easily refutable. And they're caught in their own trap right now that they tried to set. So this is a huge win, and I think again casts an even larger shadow of doubt on the state's case against Donald Trump in Florida.
And now you've got in Georgia another headache, and the Georgia Court of Appeals has agreed to hear, Trump's efforts to disqualify Fani Willis from that case. So there's some reason for perhaps some doubt on the part of the appeals court in Georgia that this thing is on the level too. So the three big cases against Trump are falling apart left and right here.
As they should. There's nothing even in Georgia. I mean, they from the beginning they made up these statements that Trump allegedly makes, saying "find the fraud" or "find me however many thousands of votes," and it's just not true. And they're framing it in a way saying that he was trying to rig the election in Georgia so that he could. No, that wasn't the case. This is a big problem I have with Trump's way of speaking. He leaves things open to interpretation. I think that's done on purpose to an extent, but he doesn't really specify exactly what he's talking about.
You're not always clear in the way he articulates things. Absolutely.
No, and again, I think that's a smart way of doing things, because this is a guy who's surrounded by lawyers 24/7, right? Throughout his entire adult life, and who's used to making deals. So if he says something and you pick up on what he means, you follow through with what you think he's trying to get at. And I think that's done on purpose, but not with ill intent. He's just used to kind of keeping his own nose clean in a lot of instances, and I think that's just carried throughout his manner of speaking, even in private situations or private phone calls. That's just, it's all legalese, right? So him saying, we need however many votes, he's not saying manufacture the votes. He's saying there's obvious fraud, there is reason to question the legitimacy of this election. And I believe that votes for me were thrown out on the side of the road, which, I mean, we've found evidence of that. There are people tossing ballots into dumpsters and into ditches. There are pictures. It happened. So he's saying we need to get those and make sure that these are all hand counted, even the stuff that's already gone through. Find the number of votes just enough so that we can win. He wasn't saying manufacture them. He wasn't saying rig.
Saying find them. Yeah, absolutely.
And when you've got a corrupt prosecutor who's in bed with the special prosecutor on this case, and all of these from Alvin Bragg to Fani Willis. They've all said in some instances, Letitia in New York as well, that one of their intents is to bring Trump down, to get Trump. They want him destroyed. And that should disqualify any prosecutor, I think. If your entire platform is to disqualify somebody just because you don't like their policies, or you don't like their hairdo, whatever it is, their bronze skin toner, whatever. That's a huge conflict.
Yeah, didn't Fanny Stormy Daniels referred to Trump as an orange turd. So she's referring obviously to his skin color. Now, isn't that racial profiling?
One of the dismissed jurors in that case.
Yeah. You can't pick on orange turds. Come on.
He's a lot less orange than I thought he would be. That was funny.
135 peaceful protesters arrested early this morning and late last night out at UMass Amherst, and this thing is going to continue for a while, I guess. Probably into the summer. You know what was interesting? That there was a front line of professors and faculty members that were defending the students. They were arrested first. And we're seeing that happen more often. And I'm finding this interesting because usually the folks like the faculty and, the founders of Black Lives Matter and the founders of Antifa, they always hide the back and they put the college students up front. But now you're seeing these folks come out to the front lines. And you see faculty members being arrested left and right and making demands and so on and so forth. It's kind of interesting why these folks are coming out. I'm theorizing that they feel as though the tide is turning and the pendulum is swinging in a different direction. And all of the gains that they've made since Barack Obama took over the White House back in 2008 may be lost, and they're out there one last-ditch effort trying to fight to salvage things. It's kind of interesting the way all of this is playing out on our campuses. And where's Merrick Garland? Shouldn't Merrick Garland be all over TV announcing investigations into who's funding these things and what's going on here?
I mean, we've known for a while that our colleges, even on the local level, I won't mention any specific names, but they've just been indoctrination centers. And the professors, not all of them, but by and large, are very extremely left-leaning. Many of them would profess themselves as socialists or communists. And there's no reason to hide anymore. That's accepted vernacular and accepted viewpoints, because it's been pressed for so long on these students, and they've been taught to believe that America is inherently evil. I mean, the whole curriculum, the race. I forget the name of it, but the system that everybody's racist and nobody's got a fair shot in America anymore.
Right.
That's that's been in the curriculum for some time now, even though it hasn't been called exactly by that name, whatever it is. It escapes me at the moment.
Yeah,
but it's been accepted by a lot of these students, and they go into these colleges and they're already agreeing with these professors to a certain extent. So these professors, to me, they're getting off on all of this. This is their time to shine. They're out there professing their love for Hamas and for Palestine and down with the nation of Israel, the state of Israel. It's extremely embarrassing. But what they've never had to face any kind of discipline for their viewpoints.
They've got tenure.
Their viewpoints, they're allowed to have them, their opinions. But I mean, now you're dabbling in hate speech. Not dabbling, you're jumping right into hate speech and calling for genocide and the destruction of Israel and Jews across the world. This is a different ball game, but they don't see that. They see that they've got tenure, they've never been fired, and the students look up to them. And so this is their stand to show these students that nothing's going to happen to you because nothing's going to happen to us. And really, nothing has happened to the students. Maybe a few have been suspended, but they're all going to have some, small infraction on their criminal record from an arrest. But what's ultimately going to happen to them?
Nothing. In fact, even in New York at Columbia,
they may have a tough time getting a job, but they were always going to have a tough time getting a job.
They can work for HIMSS.
Degree in gender studies.
Yeah, right. There you go. But you know what's interesting, Taylor, is the youngsters that are out there on the campuses today, and I really don't feel sorry for them, maybe to a degree. I should, but these are kids that have gone now full tilt through the entire indoctrination system from about 3.5 years old up through the public education system, through preschool, and now through higher ed. So they've gotten the full indoctrination at this point. So they're out there. But a lot of the younger professors, especially, they also, and a lot of the parents of these kids have also gone full tilt through the entire indoctrination system through the public school system and into higher education. So we are a couple of generations deep into this now with the indoctrination system using our public education system and our higher education system. So this is well ingrained, and it's very difficult to I don't want to say understand, because I can understand how it happens, but these kids have been taught that this is the right thing to do. I mean, just last week we were talking about a teacher. I don't know. No, you weren't on last week, about a teacher out in about a drag queen story out in Western Massachusetts. I don't know if you guys had this on, where the drag queen was jumping up and down with 3.5-year-olds. If you're happy and you know it, shout "Free Palestine." Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I mean, the indoctrination process starts very young. These kids have been through the whole process, and many of their parents have been through it as well. So it's not shocking to see what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, what sickens me about those stories is not so much the drag queen. That's, whatever they want to do, that's their life. They're an adult. But the people that allow that to go on, and the people that bring their children to such events, that's sickening. And I don't think. How can you not think that you're indoctrinating your child when you go to something like that, or exposing them to something of a sexual nature well before they should be exposed to something like that? But I do think the pendulum is starting to swing in the other direction. I mean, we see all of these stories, and people have just about had enough of it, so much to the point that college enrollment is starting to drop. People aren't seeing the value in going to a college where you're going to spend $20,000, $30,000, $45,000 a semester, or whatever it is, to come out with a less than useful degree that just says a couple of things that you may not have had you not gone to a higher learning institution. And you're also seeing homeschooling levels rising in almost every single state. It's people are waking up to the value that you don't need the government to do everything.
No, and trade school enrollment is soaring.
As it should be. I mean, we've got there's almost, I don't want to say almost no useful tech jobs. That's not true. It's far from the truth. But a lot of what people are going to college for these days, it may not be relevant. I mean, that's how rapidly these technologies and these industries are changing. People that went to college 10 years ago for, I don't know, you
English major, a history major that you can do absolutely nothing with.
Right.
Other than
but
teach.
Even in the tech world, everything's different now, and you've got AI, and we're going to be talking more about that as we go into the future. It's taking a lot. I mean, I'm hearing numbers like 30% of industry jobs could be eliminated because of artificial intelligence just completely taking over. So, but one thing AI can't take over is manual labor. Not yet.
Not yet.
That remains to be seen.
All right, you've got to get back to work. I appreciate you sticking around. Taylor Cormier, what's coming up this afternoon on the Howie Carr Show right here on WBSM?
I think we're going to delve into a lot of the Stormy Daniels trial yesterday. We've got updates on, I believe, day 7 of the Karen Reed trial in Canton. And we're also going to have the Massachusetts Family Institute joining us later on in the show, talking about another incident of a drag queen at a public school, this time in Sutton, Massachusetts. That's a story that went national as well.
Be looking forward to hearing it. Taylor Cormier, executive producer of the Howie Carr Show. Thank you, my friend. We'll do it again next week.
Take care, Barry.
All right. Give those chickens a hug for me. I've got to take a break. We're going to come right back. Your calls are next in 3 minutes right here in WBS.
Down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes like Coca-Cola. C-O-L-A-Cola.
All right, 1:36 on a Wednesday. 508-996-0500 is the number. Thank you for hanging on. You are up next in WBSM. Hello, hello. Have I got you plugged in here? Nope, must not have you plugged in. I think I do. I got that button in right, that button in right. All right, let's try this again. Let me reset the deck here. 508-996-0500 is the number to call. And, talking a little bit about the, talking a lot about the protests, talking a lot about the various legal cases involving Trump. And we'll get into a little bit more of that as the day goes on. And the weeks go on, I should say, because I think all of this stuff is going to probably still be with us. So we have independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is challenging Trump to a debate at the Libertarian Convention. The Libertarian Party has invited Trump to speak at the convention. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is challenging Trump to debate at the convention, describing it as a perfect neutral territory for you and me to have a debate where you can defend your record for your wavering supporters. Trump is making history by appearing at the upcoming Libertarian Convention at the end of this month. RFK Jr. will be there as well and believes it would be the perfect place for the two to debate. Donald Trump Jr. responded to the challenge on on his podcast, I'm sorry. And his podcast, I guess, is called Triggered. He says, we need to be honest about who this guy is. He is a leftist. His record is that of a hardcore Democrat, according to Trump Jr., explaining that some anti-Trump conservatives have tried to present RFK Jr. as a conservative alternative to former President Trump, giving him a big platform. In reality, that is anything but the case. While Don Jr. said they are likely never Trumpers, some are now waking up to realize, as I've been saying here for months, that he's actually competing with Joe Biden for who is further to the left, which is really saying something. Trump Jr. noted that RFK Jr. went viral for all of the wrong reasons, showing a video of RFK Jr. refusing to say if sex change operations for minors should be illegal. This is just a small example of RFK Jr.'s radicalism, and it does not matter what he says, Don Jr. explained, because RFK Jr. has a 40-year track record of doing the opposite. Every policy, whether it's the radical environmental stuff, whether it was good stuff, whether it was open borders, it's like 6 months ago, he has changed his mind entirely, he said, noting that RFK Jr. attacked the border wall and mass deportation in 2017. And what's interesting is that RFK Jr.'s own family unanimously endorses Joe Biden. Now, what you're seeing here, RFK Jr. is not a threat to Donald Trump. RFK Jr. is a threat to Joe Biden. Because they are radicals. They're both radicals. And I've been telling you this, when RFK Jr. first got in this thing, and people were saying, oh, he might be an alternative. No, he's not an alternative. He is as far left and as whacked out as Joe Biden. And some people were excited by RFK Jr. because he talked about the COVID vaccine and his opposition to it. And that excited a lot of folks who felt that they were being forced to take the vaccine or didn't want to take the vaccine or whatever. There's a lot more to United States policy and the needs of this country than just whether or not vaccines are mandated or whatever. So RFK Jr. is more of a third. The only reason that RFK Jr. left the Democrat Party and is running as an independent is not because he is competing with Trump to be a conservative. It's because the Democrats would not let him compete in the Democrat Party. They did the same thing to him that they did to Bernie Sanders twice in a row. Bernie Sanders finally got smart and decided he's going to run for re-election to the Senate rather than for president again. And they wouldn't let him play. They just wouldn't let him get in. The 2016, the Democrats squashed Bernie Sanders, cleared the field for Hillary Clinton. That didn't work out. And they did the same for Joe Biden 4 years ago now. Wow. Oh, my God, already. And they were doing the same thing to RFK Jr. So RFK Jr. is a lot closer to Joe Biden's political views than he is to Donald Trump's any day of the week. So 508-996-0500. Thanks for hanging on. You're next to WBSM.
Hey, good afternoon, Barry.
Hi.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed your article about the Boston Garden. Is that okay to talk about that?
Oh,
today?
yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yep.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. We're similar in age, and I was just thinking back to the original Garden. I believe was built for boxing, wasn't it?
I'm sorry. The original Garden was what?
I believe the original intent was it was more geared towards boxing events. I believe
it absolutely was. Yes, it was. Unfortunately, I can't fit every detail into those little pieces, but you're right. It was built. The guy that built it was a boxing promoter in New York.
Okay.
And it's on. By the way, what we're talking about is on WBSM.com, and it's also on our Facebook page. If you want to take a look at it, it examines the original Boston Garden, what it was originally called, when it was built, and all that kind of stuff. So. I have fond memories of the old Boston Garden.
Oh yeah, now that we're in playoff season, I'm getting really sick of the politics. So I figured it might be okay to talk about.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
My own experiences of it were actually the 13-year-old kid. My dad had VIP tickets. I don't know who he got them from, but I got to see Bobby Orr play.
Oh wow!
And actually, sitting in front of us, 2 rows in front of us, was Ted Kennedy. Never forget it.
No way.
Later on, went to go see Marvin Hagler fight, being a Brocktonian. And 2 seats in front of us was Peter Falk. Remember him from Colombo?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And never forget, Hagler fought a guy named Finnegan, who was the European champ.
Okay.
And we could see him going. I said to my father, "Is this guy a good fighter, Dad?" He says, "Well, if you see the white robe, son, and you see the shamrocks, he's a bleeder." So I said, "What's that mean?" He goes, "You'll see at the end of the fight." So Marvin tore him up, but I go back to those days. It was so much fun at the Garden because the new Garden is it's very stale. It's so corporate. We used to go in the afternoon to watch the Bruins matinee hockey games, and then we go to the North End to go eat and raise some hell, and come back and watch wrestling at night, which was awesome.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, my earliest memory of the Garden was, as I mentioned in the story, was going to like professional wrestling there when I was a kid. Yeah. My friend's father, it was probably, $5 a head to get into the wrestling back in those days. And, we'd all go up and he'd take us in, and God bless him. And I can remember there was a steel cage match that night. And but the Garden had that, it just had a feel about it that it's a lot different than today. Everything's polished and it's a lot different than it was. It was hot as hell in the old Garden. They didn't have an air conditioning system.
but later on in years, I worked for a big liquor company. So I used to deliver booze into the old Garden, and you'd back up the big ramp. I remember I got out of the truck and I see this gentleman with grayish hair and a black windbreaker, and another gentleman. Happened to be Milt Schmidt, and it was Don Marcotte. They ran the Boards and Blades Club up there at the old Garden.
Oh wow!
So I got to know those guys pretty good. And the guy comes over, he says, "How are you, fellas?" And I could see Milt on his jacket. I said, "Oh, how are you, Mr. Schmidt?" Milt, call me Milt. He absolutely refused to be called Mr. Schmidt, and I used to deal with him quite a bit. And it was just amazing when the new Garden was built. I knew Don Marcotte pretty good, and he just said, how corporate it got, and people weren't paying attention to the game anymore. It was more of an event than it was anything.
Yeah.
And I had the chance to go to a hockey game earlier this season, and what they've done to the balcony seats up there, they are literally the size of a Gorelick milk crate. If you just fit your ass butt in one of those, I'm telling you, it's for over $100. You know, it's just you know, again, it's just so corporate. But
yeah,
I was just thinking back to all the
you know, I just and the same is true with Fenway Park these days. I mean, they haven't built a new Fenway Park, but they've made so-called improvements. But I may have told this story, and I got to go to a break. But last summer, and my wife had something to do on a Sunday afternoon. I was by myself. I said, yeah, I'm going to take the train into Boston. I always enjoyed driving up, grabbing the red line and going into Boston. It was a beautiful summer day. I said, I think I'm going to switch over to the green line and go up to Fenway. And the game will be already started by the time I get there. So I should be able to get a cheap seat in the bleachers and, you know, just hang out for a while. I hadn't been to Fenway in a while. I got to Fenway, $86 seat in the bleachers, right? And the bleachers were like half empty because the Red Sox sucked last year. And so I'm sitting there, and you're right. It was like nobody's paying attention to the game. Everybody's on their cell phone, and they're drinking these fancy drinks and everything else, and eating nachos, and it just like the feel was so different. It was ever since like 2004 when the Pink Hats took over, you know, and the game and the real fans were all over. I can remember going to Fenway Park when I was a kid. Every club in New Bedford had a bus that went up on Saturday. $5. There was your bus fare, your seat at Fenway Park, and I know they probably threw in a hot dog too. But the feel is gone. And you know that's not just true of sports, but just with a lot of things in life, it's different.
Right.
That old feeling isn't there anymore.
Like I said, you know, I'm getting a little too sick of politics, and I remember the old days, the good old days of the Garden. So I enjoyed your article.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad. I appreciate you bringing it up. I got to hit a break, though, and I appreciate your call. Thank you, sir. 508-996-0500 is the number. We're coming right back. All right, welcome back to the program. It is 1:51. Let's grab another call here before we go to the news. And you are next in WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on, Barry?
Hey, how you doing?
Not bad. I got to say, all this talk, we are absolutely screwed 6 ways to Sunday, no matter who we pick. You know, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm definitely not a Biden supporter. And with what you were saying about RFK, I'm like, I have nobody. I'm a homeless person over here looking for somebody to support. And, you know, a while ago I would have been like, you know what, we'll just pull the trigger for the lesser of the two evils. I'm done with that, man. Like, I'm done with let's try and get the best of the worst.
Yeah.
I'm tired of gracing them with my vote. My vote is very special, right? It's the only thing I hold over these politicians.
So what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to leave it blank. I'll vote down ballot, but I'll leave him blank, or I'll write in a candidate. I'll write in Barry Richard. I don't know who I'm going to. Like, yeah, don't do me any favors. Yeah, I'm going to literally. I'm probably going to leave it blank because I just can't. I can't support Donald Trump because there's so many things that I can't stand about that guy. And Joe Biden, he doesn't even know he's in the White House, and I can't support any of his policies. It's so horrendous, the situation that we're in. And
RFK is certainly no option. But no, I you know what? Look, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people doing as you do, leaving it blank. There's a lot of people that are not satisfied with the choices for a number of different reasons, and that's legitimate. We've all got our right to choose who we want and to not support who we don't want. But it's got to be a fair election. That's the thing. I mean, you can't throw people in jail and keep them off the ballot because you don't want them on the ballot, but that seems to be the way we're going in this country these days. But I mean, hey, more power to you. And I will always tell people, go to the voting booths anyway. And even if you take a completely blank ballot and enter it into the machine, at least you've done your part and you've made a statement that way. Thank you, my friend. I got to hit the break. News is coming up in just a minute.
What a drag it is getting old.
Welcome back to the program, and we're going to head into the newsroom in just a couple of seconds. You know, a gentleman called about the piece on the Boston Garden that I put up there today. And remember, my favorite moment of the Boston Garden, my favorite memory was raising money, helping to raise money for the Jimmy Fund back in the day. And I had a basketball, and I had to go in 1984 during the Celtics-Lakers championship series. Had to go into both lockers and get both teams to sign the basketball that would be auctioned off later on. That was thrilling, meeting Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and all the guys on both of those teams back then. Classic basketball teams.